shift focus, and today we officially begin the festive season as well. So then who better than Pushpa Bector, Executive Director, DLF Retail and Luxury and Shopping Malls, joining in on the show right now to give us some color of how the footfalls have been so far and what's anticipated from the festive season now. Pushpa, great to have you on ET Now. Help us understand what's the feeler like. The first initial few days, I know September had Pitru Shraddh, as they call it in North India. But does it seem like all of that is going to get made up this festive season in terms of at least footfalls and then that converting into actual buys?
Good morning. Yes, of course, it's the first day of Navratra. And we do believe that, yes, September was muted, as the case is every year. But the season this time seems promising. It's a long season, we are actually getting in Diwali and then the winter. There's a good gap between the two, which is always good for retail because then we get good sales pre-Diwali, the entire October, and then winter sets in post-Diwali. This time there is a talk of early winter too. So all in all, I would say it's a good, positive sentiment from the retail community and the mall space. Another aspect is also the fact that, the wedding this time is going to be a very, very long season of wedding. That should also aid to consumption.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A lot of trigger points there. But Pushpa, you think this premiumization trend and upscaling and upgrading, whichever way you want to describe it, that's here to stay? Because, there's a lot of quandary in the market right now about whether, rural is seeing a recovery, whether it's ultra luxury, which is continuing to hold up, and, premiumization, is here to stay. Are you getting that feeler as well? That irrespective of what the economy may be doing, what the per capita income may be, people are aspiring to have better?
Yes, I would say overall there is a sentiment of premiumization. There is no doubt, especially in the NCR where we have most of our properties. We do see this as a trend because I think, the pandemic did teach consumers the fact that you only live once, and hence they've all looked at consuming and living well. That's an overall sentiment that one sees. And premiumization is very much part of that. The second aspect that I also see is that, yes, certain categories do better. Of course, ultra luxury does well, but so does the premium malls, all of them. The sentiment is if the product is good, that means the brand has rejuvenated, the brand has renovated, and really giving a more premium experience to the consumers, those brands we have seen doing far better in across sectors. And so it's really, I think, consumers being more demanding and more aware and knowing what they want. So if the brand is able to cater to it, they're seeing sales.
In general, the view is that, look, it's all about urban, it's all about luxury, it's all about affordability, which is only with few, but with powerful and the millennial spenders or the luxury spenders. Is that true when you look at your data at DLF Retail?
Well, millennials are spending, and millennials have also become the working class now in India. So they do have a lot of disposable income and are spending in good measure. Apart from that, I also see, the sentiment of how millennials are spending is a little different than how, let's say, baby boomers spent, the generation above that spent. Millennials are far more conscious of sustainability. They are more conscious of the source of the clothing that they are wearing. So our brands have started giving a lot of attention to that too. They are looking at, most brands have come up with source dialogue on where the source is from. And also they believe in recycling. So these are all elements that millennials really find allegiance to. And those are the brands that they go for. Last year, even H&M, which is a fast fashion brand, launched a series of initiatives to make sure that the consumer, who is largely millennial, identify with H&M not just as fast fashion, but also as a source who's reducing carbon footprint.
in terms of which categories, in your understanding, and especially based on the data what you have, are seeing explosive growth, and which categories are just plateauing or perhaps are growing but not at a very smart pace?
Well, we fortunately in DLF have got the entire range. So I would say luxury is doing well. Overall, watches, jewelry, apparel in the luxury space is doing well, continuing that. F&B is doing very well because experiential F&B is the name of the game. We coined a term that food is the new fashion, and that really is the case now. People talk a lot, as you know, of what they are eating, where they are eating from. Again, source being a big element of dialogue. So food is certainly doing well. Apart from that, I would say premium fashion has picked up now. The H1 was a little difficult for premium fashion, but I'm seeing green shoots now. Athleisure continue to do well. What doesn't do as well as it used to is, of course, cinemas. Cinemas are really dependent on content, and this year the content is not as good. So they're really looking at around 20% occupancy, which is low. And that seems to be a dragger even now. And but otherwise, the sentiment for shopping and dining seems to be rather good.
You know, the other thing, Pushpa, is post-COVID, one has seen a lot of consumer patterns change. Everything has become more online as opposed to offline. Are you seeing anything on that trend? I mean, we're talking about the world where everything is quick commerce, right? And that's the booming industry right now. What's been your experience?
That's absolutely right. The world is changing and consumption patterns are changing. So what we do see is that with quick commerce, we notice that the hypermarket business is no longer going to be relevant. When we don't do hypermarkets in DLF retail at all, we look at gourmet supermarkets, which is again experiential in nature. We also see that millennials or Gen Zs are far more, they discover digitally, but they're looking for experiences physically. So what we try to do is really make our malls to be social centers. We have some vibrant events that go on, especially now with festive season. You will see starting from Navratri all the way till December, there will be a lot of programming that we would do, which draws in the millennials and Gen Zs in a big number. And hence the shopping becomes incidental and dining is, of course, there. So there are aspects of how the consumer is consuming. Anything which is, shall I say, with quick commerce, anything that is commodity is not going to do so well. But anything which is experiential is going to do very well in the mall space, and which is where we are trying to take our properties, brand after brand.
You see this entire debate of online versus offline moving eventually? At what rate do you think the retail malls, brick and mortar, would grow, and at what rate do you think the online would grow?
Well, there was a lot of talk pre-COVID. I always say that COVID, I think, was a level playing field. People came back in retail, brick and mortar spaces very strongly. But today, going forward, when everything is normal, I see retail growing at a good mid digits, which is around 13% to 14% CAGR. We do see that to be a possibility in terms of sales. And as far as the online is concerned, that's also growing at the same pace. So today, organized retail has across the countries around 15 to 16%. We think that this will grow, will reach the 20% number because there's a lot of malls that are getting built and opening in the next decade. There is a study recently that almost 30 million square feet of mall space is getting built. So I do think that the organized retail will reach around 20%, as is the online retailing. Online retailing already has reached around 18%, and that will probably grow up to around 18 to 20. So it would be a level playing field is the way I look at it. Experiential spaces. Also, the fact that, India is growing in all corners, the economy is sort of spreading in small towns as well as in the larger cities. So you would see malls developing. As we know now, there are a lot of construction that's happening and new malls that are getting built in tier 2, tier 3 city, as much as the tier 1 cities. So yes, the organized retail will grow.
Just to wrap it up with two final questions, we started with this point that how do you expect this year's festival season to be different? But what you're telling us is that this year festival season, the initial feedback and your understanding is that it's going to be as good as what we've seen last 3 years, if not great.
Yes, there are 2-3 reasons, as I said. One is that we have clear seasons this time. The Diwali will take care of, October is going to be all about Diwali and festivities. November, typically in Delhi NCR, the winter sets in. This time, the early winter is supposed to set in. So we do think that we will have a good seasonal play. And the long wedding season is going to aid to this. And so I do believe that we would grow around probably, double digits from last year. But the growth is certainly expected from a sales point of view.
Just to take a slightly longer term, point here, at DLF malls or at the, DLF retail business, which is that one big change which you expect, which would be at play next 5 years? I mean, how will this entire business change for you in terms of getting it future ready?
Well, that's a lovely question. We talk about it a lot, and we do think that the flexibility within malls is going to be a key feature, which means how quickly can we do large stores to small stores to large stores will be a key feature, which we are aiding into our designs. The second aspect is that the percentage that we give to certain kinds of entertainment can change. And we will have a lot more live entertainment spots in our properties, because we do think that the future live entertainment will be a big element in all our malls. The third is that we've increased the F&B to around 18% from the current around 12 to 13%, which will improve experiential dining in all our properties. So I think from a trend point of view, we also believe in technology addition, and we are looking at building a smarter property, smarter mall, where we are digitally more savvy, and we are able to sort of look at the mall space in a more dynamic nature rather than in a static nature.
Interesting times to come. Pushpa, great having you on the show, and here's wishing you festival greetings from all of us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting. Thank you very much.
Okay.
There comes a time when your heart calls for you to arise. Plant your feet solid into the ground. Decide your own limits. And then break right through them. Become something more. It's my time to rise.